Being able to identify all the stuff that makes up your application for your supply chain is important, and in some cases required. Let's see how we can generate a software bill of materials using the GitHub dependency graph. Here we go. Hey y'all, I'm Mickey Gousset, and in today's video, we are going to learn how GitHub and its dependency graph can provide you with a software bill of materials. Almost all software development makes use of open source and other software packages. Being able to accurately identify that software is key for many supply chain processes. A software bill of materials, SBOM, is a standardized inventory of a software project's dependencies and associated metadata, such as versions and licenses, etc. GitHub now provides the ability to export your repository's dependency graph as an SBOM, both from within the web browser as well as using the REST APIs. The software bill of materials generated adheres to the Software Package Data Exchange Specification version 2.3. This is a data exchange format allowing information about software packages and related content to be easily shared. GitHub makes use of the dependency graph, which is a summary of the dependencies used by the repository to generate the software bill of materials. The dependency graph shows dependencies, the ecosystems and packages it depends on, as well as dependents, the repositories or packages that depend on your software. I even have a couple of videos on the dependency graph that I'll link in the description. Now, let's look at some different ways we can generate our software bill of materials. I'll start out by generating it from the web browser, then move to using the REST API. And I'll wrap up the demo looking at a GitHub action created by my friend and coworker Colin Dembowski that can also generate the software bill of materials. Okay, let's get to it. All right, to get started, here we are in my demo repository. Now I've already gone to the settings and I've turned on the dependency graph. So if I go to Insights and I go to dependency graph, then we can see all of the different packages that this application is using, all 63 pages of the different packages that I'm using. So if I want to export a software bill of materials from the dependency graph, I can click the Export Software Bill of Materials button, and it will download a file for me. In this case, it's a JSON file. And if I click Open File, it will open it up. In this case, it opens it up in VS Code. And if I just do a shift file up, we can make it a little bit prettier. So you can see we've got a lot of information here. We've got the creation date, obviously, but then we've got, for each package, we have the name of the package, the download location, if it knows it, the license potentially used by that package. If we scroll down through some of this, you can see like here is a package that we're using, this Bootstrap View, that is got an MIT license. So this is giving me all the information around all of the dependencies in my application. And I could then take this and I could shove it into some other system if I wanted to, or wherever I need to put this to be able to use it effectively. So that's the one way you can do this, right? Is we can just go to the repository and click the export button. We also have the ability to do this through the API. So here we have a software bill of materials endpoint that we can hit. So here is the documentation, which I'll link to in the description. And what I love about our documentation, by the way, is that it gives you how to call it with a curl command, how to call it from JavaScript, and how to call it using the GitHub CLI. So let's go to that same repository, but this time let's call it using the GitHub CLI and see how we can create the software bill of materials by hitting the API directly. So here's the call I'm going to make. I just say, in this case, since I'm using the GitHub CLI, I say GH API. I pass in a couple of headers, and then I say go to repos, DevOps Elvis, SBOM demo, dependency graph, SBOM. And if I do that, then I get that same information that I received in the JSON file. In this case, it just goes directly to the screen. But it's all the same information. I could have easily piped this information into a file if I wanted to. But there you go. A second way to be able to generate this information. Now, the final way I want to show you about generating this information is as part of a GitHub Actions workflow. So this is an action built by one of my good friends, Colin. And what this does is it uses that REST API that we just showed you to generate the software bill of materials. But it runs it as an action in a workflow, which then just makes it a little bit easier maybe to work with. But you could also do things such as after the workflow runs, you generate the software bill of materials as part of the workflow and you upload the bill of materials to the actual workflow run. So then you're tracking in that workflow run all of the software related to the code that was part of that workflow run. So if we come back over here to our demo repository and we go into the .github folder and we go into the workflows folder, you can see that I have this sbom demo.yaml file. And all it's doing is we're saying trigger on a workflow dispatch, which is trigger manually. We're running this on Ubuntu, and we are using the action to generate the software bill of materials file. And then I'm using the upload artifact action to take the output from the previous step, in this case, the file, and upload that to this workflow. If I go to Actions, and I select it, and I say Run Workflow, and we can go in and we can watch this workflow run. Hopefully it shouldn't take very long. In this case, we generate it and we upload it. And if we look at our workflow run, you can see we now have one artifact. Here's the artifact, and we can download that and open it, and there's that same software bill of materials file that we've gotten the other two ways. So what we've shown you here in the demo is 3 different ways that you can generate that software bill of materials. The first one is just simply going to the dependency graph and clicking the export. The second way was by hitting the REST API, and then the third way was by using an actual GitHub Actions workflow. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the different ways to create a software bill of materials using the GitHub dependency graph. If so, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash that bell to be notified of my next video. Thanks for watching.